The Vuelta's first summit finish should see the favourites finally emerge from the pack. And astonishingly, 5 days into the race, they still have a full pack from which to emerge. Although I can't remember the last Grand Tour that entered stage 6 without having lost a single rider, but the Vuelta still has the 198 men who rolled down the ramp for the team time trial on Saturday. With a bit of luck, that happy state of affairs won't have changed by the end of the day, but the order in which they're ranked certainly will, because today should give us a first decent look at the big beasts who so far have shown themselves only fleetingly.
Of course, the pre-race favourite Nairo Quintana actually took the top step of the podium on day one after Movistar won the opening stage, but he's been crouching behind his bodyguard since, doing nothing unnecessary. Alejandro Valverde slipped into the red jersey by default for a day on stage 2 and showed with his late stage 4 attack that he's a useful tactical weapon for Quintana. The only other uphill finish so far brought Joaquim Rodríguez to the front, or almost the front, finishing third behind Michael Matthews and Dan Martin on stage 3. Chris Froome showed a cool head and real racing instinct to steal 2 bonus seconds at the intermediate sprint yesterday, before Alberto Contador split the race with a show of team force from Tinkoff in the crosswinds. Now, Michael Matthews has already acknowledged that this will be his final day in the red jersey, and Nairo Quintana, whether or not he wants it this early in the race, is the best placed man to take it from him at 13 seconds. Alejandro Valverde and Rigoberto Urán are at 20 and 24 seconds, just ahead of Damiano Caruso and Matthews' teammate Esteban Chavez, who'll be the focus of the Orica effort from now on. Aimar Zubeldia is the last man within 30 seconds of the race lead, just ahead of Wilco Kelderman. Alberto Contador sits between Kelderman and his Belgian teammate Robert Hesink. They're all at 32 seconds. The BMC pair of Samuel Sanchez and Cadel Evans are 2 seconds behind them and 4 seconds ahead of Chris Froome. Joaquim Rodríguez is at 47 seconds, and Dan Martin, after his chase back yesterday, is Garmin's sole prospect now at 48. Now, they may be heading for the mountains today, but they're starting on the Costa del Sol at Benalmádena, and the route sticks to the coast for the first 46 kilometres as far as Torre del Mar before turning inland and heading uphill. There are 3 climbs on the route, starting with the second category Alto de Zephyraya, just over 900 metres. The Alto de los Bermejales is just over 1100. And after a pair of intermediate sprints just 8 kilometres apart, there's the final climb at La Zubia, the 1200 metre Alto Cumbres Verdes. It's a 5 kilometre climb, and according to the official race manual, the steepest part of nearly 13% is on the lower slopes, although locals reckon it might be closer to 17%. And talking of percentages,
I think the aim is to give 100% of what he's got. Now, that might not be the 100% of 100%, but it might be if he's got 95%, let's give 100% to 95%. And I also think that, given the year he's had, and some great rides, but also some challenges, I think it's nice for him to be here with no pressure, relaxed, enjoying riding his bike, day by day, just, doing what he likes, which is racing and racing hard. And, he's an aggressive kind of rider. He wants to win, that's for sure. But I think there's, it's a great opportunity just to recalibrate a little bit and enjoy the whole, the idea of taking an opportunity rather than see it as any kind of, there's no pressure. It's just, it's a fun environment to be in really at the minute, and everybody's enjoying it.
That's going to be the first real test for everyone, see exactly where everyone's at, and be a good test for me too, see where my legs are at. And it's been a long period without racing for me, so it feels like every day now I'm just sort of getting into that race rhythm. I feel all right, but I definitely wouldn't say I'm at my best at the moment, so it's hopefully I'm going to get progressively better during the race. I guess time will tell. Contador, I think he may be same as me. I mean, coming back from injury, he may not quite be there yet, but I guess we'll find out. Rodríguez looks like he's in really good form at the moment. I think he's going to be fighting hard for the victory here.
Chris Froome dijo que de todos los favoritos se te ve mejor.
Claro, yo lo veo mejor a él, entonces hoy se verá, es difícil. Muy duro, es un repecho muy duro. Veremos a ver.
Bueno, contento, estoy disfrutando mucho en esta vuelta. Sé que va a ser difícil, ya no solo por la pierna, sino también por la condición, que no es óptima, pero bueno, hay que estar motivado, hay que pensar en que con los días se vaya mejorando la condición y a ver si en una semanita pues podemos estar siendo protagonistas.
Another hot day, 34 the temperature at the finish, although it was a bit more comfortable on the coast for the sign-in. Now, before we call a moratorium on any more Ice Bucket Challenge videos, Koen de Koorts of yesterday is worth a quick nod, because A, he did it during the race, and B, because he made good on that promise to win the race by leading out John Degenkolb for the stage win. Now, Alberto Contador was alongside the red jersey at the rollout this morning for the Omen readers among you, and Pim Ligtaert was in the break for the second day running, alongside Lewis Mas, who was after some easy King of the Mountains points on the first two climbs to pad his lead in that competition. In fact, he briefly took the virtual lead in the race overall when their lead crept up over 14 minutes, starting the day as he did 13.59 behind Michael Matthews. At that point, though, the chase started, and it was led by Garmin, partly no doubt because they believe Dan Martin has a chance today, partly for having been caught out on the wrong side of the split yesterday. As we join the lead pair with just 50 kilometres left to race, their advantage is on the way to being halved.
So the leaders over the top of the third category climb, second climb of the day, and it's the race-long breakaway of the tandem of Ligtaert and Mas picking up enough points now to keep him in that blue spotted jersey, even though there's still 10 points available at the finishing line today. Interesting tactics though, Graham, because it's not been the red jersey team of Orica Green Edge, it's been the blue jersey of Garmin Sharp, and they've got plans, I think, for Martin.
Yes, definitely. I mean, when that gap of the two leaders, it went up to over 14 minutes at one point, and I was beginning to think that nobody was interested at all in chasing them down, because the best placed of them, Lewis Mas, was nearly 14 minutes down overall, but Garmin have taken up the pacemaking and have been on the front virtually non-stop.
Garmin in the blue, and not surprisingly, Movistar here as well, setting tempo on the right. Two candidates for the next red jersey for sure in Valverde and Quintana. And also Katusha bobbing in and out of that leading pack. And they're thinking of Joaquim Rodríguez, and it's absolutely typical finish for Rodríguez, providing he's got form. You may remember in the Tour de France, he continually went out on the attack to try and test his legs and find the magical form which he's had in the past, but coming to the Tour rather after injury. But he'll be aiming for the top in this one, I think.
Well, it's certainly one of the favourites, isn't it? And I think today's really going to be, we're going to see maybe certainly not who's going to win the Vuelta, but we certainly might see one or two who are not going to win the Vuelta. A lot of the favourites have been playing their chances down a little bit today. Whether they're trying to keep their powder dry, I'm not so sure, but most people say I'm not the favourite, it's Contador or it's Quintana, but we shall see. And this is sort of 5 kilometre climb really. Often the steeper ones can do a lot more damage than the big long mountain climbs.
Well, it is a hard climb. It's also very exposed, dead straight and quite steep, at 10% average all the way up to the finishing line. Not quite as hot as it's been. It's ducking below 30 degrees, but it is still extremely warm for this really, which is officially our first lick of the mountains in this year's Tour of Spain. We're in the province of Granada now. Inside 8 minutes, as Graham has said, we've been over 14 minutes for those two riders. At one stage, Lewis Mas was the race leader virtual, but that's fallen away now. A lot of riders want to test each other. It's a big test for all of those today who will want to try and feature in this race once we get into the mountains. This becomes a very, very hilly Vuelta a España after stage 10. And from then on, we're going to see the strong men. So it's a little test game between the strong men of the Tour here, just to see who has the legs.
Yeah, it's definitely a little test. I don't think we'll see the gaps too big between the main favourites. I think it will come down to just a few seconds today, but I'm really intrigued as to see just what sort of state especially Contador's in. I mean, he already had a little go yesterday with his team on the front, so he's obviously feeling quietly confident, and if he can get through today within a reasonable time of the leaders, then it bodes well for the rest of the Vuelta.
Well, it's a pretty exposed ride now, Graham, as we go down to the first sprint of the day at Allandine. That comes with 22 kilometres left. Then on to Granada, 14 to go. And then as we go through Zubia, we then start the finishing climb, which is very, very exposed. Big test for the riders now. Still plenty of riders going to the back for water bottles here. A familiar trend of this year's Vuelta de España so far. And this is the region, it's been announced today, that will host the start of the Vuelta next year. And they could spend up to 4 days in this region. Very hot, but it's also very popular for cycling.
Yeah, you always get good crowds. There are still parts of Spain where the crowds, you don't get great crowds for the Vuelta, but this area does in particular.
Interesting to see Movistar again. And what a great attacking rider Valverde is. He's always looking for moves. He's come to the front, got his bottle at the first take there. That'll do nicely. Now telling his team manager back at the car, didn't like the shape of the bottle, but there we are. It's, as the race goes on, I think Valverde will slowly be the number 2 of the team. Quintana, but you never know. Today, Valverde is in a position to take over the race lead.
Well, Movistar as a whole are in a very strong position in this Vuelta. The fact that they've got 2 people who could potentially win the Vuelta, so they've always got that little bit of backup should one of them have a bad day.
2 leaders, and if the names are familiar, they should be now, because in these opening 5 days of the Vuelta, these 2 have been on the attack pretty much. Yesterday, he's wearing the red numbers, most competitive rider, Lichtart. They're over the banner, so there's still a lot of work to do. They've got 50 kilometres to go. The leaders are only 43 from home.
Welcome back. Yesterday we saw Tinkoff split the race. Today the weather briefly threatened to do it without human help as the route ran along the border between Malaga, Granada and Kansas. In fact, when the split did come, it was sideways. Nairo Quintana followed his teammate Imanol Eviti up the wrong side of a dual carriageway and took a dozen other riders with him. For a while it looked as though they might not have an easy opportunity to rejoin. And whichever Skyrider it was at the back of the train decided it was better to lose a few dozen places and cross the road coming out of this roundabout. After a bit of parallel riding with one race just visible through the shrubbery from the other, the roads did converge and Quintana came out of it quite nicely at the head of the race. Now, 2 intermediate sprints in quick succession today, remember. As we rejoin the race, Lichtart and Mas are through the first, with the peloton just approaching it.
Well, this is the peloton now. They're exactly 3 miles behind the 2 leaders with 22 kilometres to go. That's about 13 miles to the finish. We're coming into the sprint town of Allandine. This is where we'll start tomorrow. And the 2 leaders now beginning to look, and so they should, a little bit tired, Graham.
Yeah, they've been out there a long time. It's a long, hot day. It's been a long, hot week, in fact. And they'll be looking to stay out as far as they can, really. But I expect them to probably still hold a little bit of a lead as we hit the climb. But I don't see any chance of them actually going on to win the stage.
4 minutes 17. It's come steadily down from 14 minutes and 20 seconds, which it was after 50 kilometres of racing today. Now we're just 19 from the finish. But the last 5 kilometres are dead straight, 10% gradient, exposed, and it'll be every man for himself on that final climb. I don't know, but I guess they would have needed slightly more than what they've got now to survive just the last 5 kilometres.
Yeah, I think the climb's that short and steep that I think you know, they're going to be travelling probably half the speed that the favourites are going to be going up that climb. Now
watch this corner, Graham, because this is a tricky section. Our camera's gone away, unfortunately, but they've taken the road here as they go. There have been warnings on the radio about the way they've taken. See the right-hand side? Well, the riders have got this perfect, but there's a little bit more around the corner. They've got to make sure they follow the chicane through, otherwise they'll be in amongst all the tapes. I've never quite seen anything like this before, but they're round the bend safely. Read it right. 18 kilometres to go. They're just about to go through the sprint point. There's still 1 second time bonus for the first rider through. Lichtart taking the 3 seconds up front with Mas behind him. And it looked like it was Degenkolb himself who got the 1 point there and the 1 second time bonus.
Yeah, well, we saw Chris Froome sneak away and get a couple of seconds yesterday, but there was no such thing happening there. It certainly looked like Degenkolb was taking that. More interested in the point than the second, of course.
Absolutely interesting. So he'll keep his lead tonight in the green jersey competition, that's for sure. Everybody's speculating that this is the jersey that Dan Martin is aiming for this year, because strangely in the Tour of Spain, they're equal value points in the mountains and the time trials as well as on the flat. So it really isn't a sprint jersey, which is the whole reason it came into being.
Yeah, I mean, that happens, as you say, happens a lot in the Vuelta. That it's the good old rounders, and often the guys who are up there on GC take the points jersey.
Well, at least the blue spotted jersey stays at home on the shoulders here of Luis Mace, because tomorrow he'll start in it. He can't be caught today. There are 10 points available at the top of the finishing climb today, but it's not enough. This is the tricky section, also at the top end of the town here. That is a sharp turn too. The peloton needs to watch out on that one. Here we are, 6 days into the Vuelta a España. Not a single rider has been forced out of the race, either by fatigue or crashes or elimination. So all 198. It's a while since we've said that after 6 days of racing in a Grand Tour. 16.9 kilometres to go now. The gap has come down more or less a minute since we went through the 22 kilometre to go point. So if they're losing around about a minute every 5 kilometres, well, we're going to be caught before the start of the last climb.
And it's also an important thing here, the guys on the GC contenders, if you like, it's also important that they want to win the stages as well, because there are bonuses on the mountaintop finishes, unlike you get in some of the other big tours that don't have bonuses on the mountaintop finishes.
Well, just look at this now. It's eyes down. Orica Green Edge on the right here now, as they ride for their new boy on the team, Chavez. They're going to try and guide him up the hill today. The dark blue jersey of Movistar, they're looking for primarily Quintana and also Valverde. The blue jersey just about peeping in on the centre, Garmin Sharp, they're looking for their man Dan Martin. The red and white jerseys, they're trying to put Joaquim Rodríguez into position. Sky also bursting into the picture as well. You can see them bottom right in the blue stripes on the jersey. They're looking to put Chris Froome back into the face of the race. And coming up in the yellow jerseys now on the right, that's Contador's Tinkoff Saxo team. So they're all paying an awful lot of attention to this now.
Yeah, we're heading into the Granada. We do actually go right into the centre of Granada, and then we almost double back on ourselves and head southeasterly out of Granada towards La Zubia and this final climb. But the teams now, with their making sure that their leaders are all near the front of the peloton, out of danger.
15.7 kilometres to go. The teams know exactly what they've got to do for their climbers today. That's keep them safe at the front for the last 5 kilometres of this day. Well, at the moment, we would all think this is going to turn out very nice for Orica, because the red jersey of Michael Matthews is 4th in line. But unfortunately, I don't think he can survive this rather nasty 5 kilometre ascent to the line. It is dead straight. It's the most horrible climb, really, because you probably see the banner 2 miles from the finish.
Yes, and I'm just thinking, actually, probably one of the reasons why Orica Green Edge, I mean, they've got double-edged sword a little bit today. They have got Chavez as a potential rider to finish well overall, but also maybe looking at trying to take Matthews to take the bonus behind the 2 leaders in the sprint in Granada. But it does seem strange. I mean, Orica Green Edge traditionally have not really gone into a big tour with a candidate for overall placing, so it's something new for them.
It is.
And you know, and they said yesterday that every day in the red there was a bonus for them. They've already had a good start to the tour with a stage win and 4 days in red, so they'll be happy with the way things have gone so far.
Well, we're in Granada now. We're not very far from the only other sprint out on course now. Pim Ligtard did nothing to affect the destiny of the mountains. Both awards going to Luis Mas. And so far, Mas has returned the favour and allowed Ligtard to take the bonuses and the small prizes available at the sprint. And I suspect in a few minutes' time, that's what we'll see, as Ligtard will be allowed to go over first in the sprint. But there might be a sprint for 3rd place, as Graham has said, because Degenkolb came up and got himself enough, the best of the rest, as it were, just now. We'll see what happens at the next sprint. Not far away now. We're looking back at the peloton though, but the gap is now 3 minutes. It's coming down pretty quickly.
Yeah, I expect them to just hang on to a little bit of a lead as we hit the climb, but it won't last long at all. Once those climbers get on that climb, I can see people like Rodriguez attacking it almost from the first few hundred metres of the climb.
That's the first sprint. We're waiting for the second one now. That was Alan Dean. Degenkolb, best of the rest there. Valuable point perhaps in the green jersey competition for the man that's won the stages over the past 2 days. Refound his form. If you take a look at the whole route of the Vuelta now, I'm afraid that there's only about 4 stages which we more or less can think the sprinters will have their day. The rest of the race is going to be a real battle amongst the favourites. It's a very good race course from stage 10. Rest day on Monday, and then off we go with the time trial, and then off we go playing in the mountains again as we make our journey north. Well, there's no doubt at the moment. And there's been a change of wheels at the back. Damiano Cunego is here, number 3, taking the wheel of a teammate. And it looks to me as though it's Roberto Ferraro. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's Chasey, also a sprinter, but he's 21 minutes behind, whereas Cunego's even further back, and yet he's given him the wheel, so he must expect Cunego to be coming up later in the race. He's half an hour down. Here they come. Just let's see if they do contest the sprint here, but it looks as though the red jersey may, oh indeed, this is the leaders going through. A little look back, and yeah, as we expected, Ligtart goes through ahead of Mars, and there will be a sprint for that 1 point. Let's see if they can. It looks as though perhaps the red jersey's not interested now. He's gone more or less to the back of the field, not back of the field, but into the pack. 4th men down. The others are massing around him. Degenkolb is the green jersey and going up on the inside as well. He's looking for 3rd place again. Repositioning himself. Matthews caught on the wrong side of his team. Can't do anything about it. And neither can we, because they've just built these houses in front of our TV camera. Well, we didn't quite see the sprint, but they confirmed that Degenkolb did cross the line in 3rd place. And now it's eyes down for the riders to try and catch up before the climb begins. We're just looking down here at the head of the peloton. You can see it. It's been for the last few kilometres Orica Greenhead setting the pace. Even Michael Matthews there in the red jersey in 2nd place. But Movistar have started to move their riders to the front. We're just about a minute ahead now with these 2 riders.
Yeah, we're approaching the climb now, and you can see that the peloton's getting a little bit nervous, and the team's trying to make sure their leaders are well placed. See Katusha there for Rodriguez, also Sky, we're well up there. Peter Kennettwood's right at the front of the peloton as well.
Katusha, they're going to be pretty confident, I think, but it's a test bed today for all of the Tour favourites. This is a place where you could lose time, but basically they want to test each other. Who has got the legs going forward this year in the Vuelta? And this is a real test. And I'll tell you what, after the display yesterday by Alberto Contador in particular and his team in general, nobody's thinking that Contador has come here now just to try and find form.
No, definitely not. I think he's proved that this last couple of days. He's got intentions of doing more than just come for a stage win or 2. I think he's got pretensions of trying to win this Vuelta.
He's done it twice before, but of course this time he's had a hairline fracture of the tibia. And that was in the Tour de France, and he's right here now. He's just tucking in and out, about 4th place down the line. Well, I must say, Michael Matthews, he's a sprinter. He's a little bit more than a sprinter, that's for sure. He's a very strong bike rider as well, but he's throwing his red jersey away to support the team today. Let's not forget there are 2 leaders, and Peter Sagan's decided not to wait till the hills bite. He's dropping off the back. Not at all interested. He hasn't raced much since the midsummer, and now it looks to me as though he is... he's just riding along for the upcoming World Championships. Might be a different rider, also in Spain, by the way.
Team cars have now been pulled out from behind this breakaway, just got the neutral service to cover them, and I expect any minute we'll see these riders swept up.
I think any minute too we're going to start the climb, because it's 5 kilometres this climb. And the 2 leaders are going to take 30 seconds onto the finishing slopes today. 5 kilometres, 30 seconds. It can't possibly happen for them now. What a great ride for both of them. Michael Matthews now. Are these the death throes of the leader of the Vuelta for the last 3 days? Remember, he also led the Giro d'Italia this year for 6 days, and that's it. Matthews had done it for the team. Red jersey will be changed for team strip tomorrow.
It's funny, we're actually seeing Degenkolb do a similar job for Warren Barguil, his teammate in Giant Shimano.
Well, that's another name you mentioned there, Graham. He got 2 stage wins here last year as an up-and-coming youngster. This year we expect more than that from Warren Barguil. This is Peter Kenyuk throwing it in, who was incredibly active for a long, long way in the Commonwealth Games road race in Glasgow. But he actually threw the race away. He broke away early on and nobody went with him, and he was compromised. But he gave it a great shot. The British champion. These are the 2 riders. Impetus going away. 17 seconds time to move everybody out of that gap.
And this is where the climb starts, the left-hand turns here. This is where it goes.
Well, an attack, but it was quickly countered by the King of the Mountains. If he did get to the top, he'd build himself quite a lead up there, but the 10 points on the top might be a little bit too far. Lewis Mars catches up with Pim Ligtart.
I think Ligtart's got his eyes on trying to defend that combativity award by the looks of it, try to be the last man to stay out.
It's very difficult today to know who to give it to be absolutely honest, because they've shared all the prizes equally, they've shared all the pacemaking. Now who's going to be the first to go here?
Dan Martin's well placed there at the front. Garmin have been working for him today.
Just scurrying up on the outside there, Steve Molobito. Strong man when he comes to riding for Philippe Gilbert, particularly for Cadel Evans.
It's like Castroviejo who's doing the pacemaking now at the front of the peloton.
There it is, 4.6 kilometres the length there, maximum gradient of 12.8%, an average gradient of around 8%. And there it is. I told you it was dead straight. It's a horrible climb because you're always going to see your rivals.
Last 2 kilometres particularly are very tough, very straight, and almost like it seemed like the climb's never going to end.
Well, through the town of La Zubia, that's the last town before we go on to the climb itself now. Well, Pim Ligtart has really found himself in this tour. He was with Vacances Soleil, with a team that disbanded. Lotto gave him a berth, and now he's thanking them for that. This is a very, very good move, very strong, determined exit. And I think this might well confirm him as the most aggressive rider of the day for the second day here.
Well, Lemervel's the first one to attack from the peloton. At the moment, nobody else, none of the favourites have really made a move just yet.
And Lemervel, who was once the best top finisher in the Tour de France when he finished 9th a few years back, is the rider behind, and it looks like he might be first to reach Ligtart.
Dan Martin there, being well supported. Cardoso sitting alongside Dan Martin, looking after him. I quite fancy Dan Martin to do something today. It's his sort of climb, not too long.
Now, riders starting to just continue the pace. This is a very difficult climb to judge your effort here, because you can see most of it all the way up. Just moving up to the front there. Looks like it was Dmitry Konjanchuk on Team Katusha trying to get control of the peloton. That's the man down at the bottom of our picture. And he's preparing the ground for Rodriguez. Pim Ligtart, really 3 kilometres to go. They're right on him now. Lemervel trying to come up. His last big performance, Christophe Lemervel, was when he finished 4th, and it was also in Spain, in the north, in San Sebastian, in the San Sebastian Classic. Very good ride for a Frenchman in that event too. 3 kilometres to go, it's all over. Pim Ligtart led this race for 164.5 kilometres. But now they're all together at 3 to go. Still making the pace on the front here as the pack are now all together, except for those who are being left behind. They're climbing this, Graham, at 14 kilometres an hour, an average gradient of just on 9%.
Yep, still nobody attacked yet.
Look at the
But
peloton.
you can see it splitting now. We've got probably 20 riders, just over 20 riders in that front part.
And this is all the work by Konjanchuk here. This is the chaos now at the back of the race as they start to go off. I just seen Niemic going off for Lamprey. That's a bit of a surprise. And Danny Moreno, that was, who's just gone off as well. He was a candidate, I would have thought, for the possible podium at the top, but he's gone.
Well, Quintana's looking comfortable there. You see 10 down as well from Belkin, just tucked in there, about 6 places back. Valverde.
Yeah, the top two from Movistar on the right, Valverde and Quintana, are here. Now, just tucked in the middle, that looks to me like it is the champion of South Africa, which is the youngster in his first Grand Tour, Louis Meintjes. From the top here, yes it is, he's just popping into our picture there. Also there too, we've got the leading jersey in the combine, which means Meintjes' teammate is here, Padilla. He's possibly their man for the top today. Now this is just going to be a wall of attrition on this climb. It's a dead straight climb. They're just going to keep on grinding up it and hoping they all survive to the end. Roman Seacard is 81. And that is Meintjes just in front of him, the young champion of South Africa, beginning to slip a little bit now. Padilla is down here though. He's wearing the white jersey of the combine leader. And that's the man, the MTN Quebecer squad from Africa. And that, by the way, I've just seen it then, it's worth remembering, Graham, that this is the first time that the African squad, and any African squad, has ever worn a leader's jersey here in the Vuelta.
Chris Froome there sitting on the wheel of Contador as well. So we're seeing all the favourites. Nobody looks like they're losing time at the moment. There's Caruso of Katusha losing contact.
Yes, and this is simply a matter of if you can't take the heat, you've got to get out the oven, I'm afraid. George Bennett going off as well, and it's all down to Alejandro Valverde. He's had a great season this year. He spends so much time in front of our television cameras. He will try to the limit. He thinks he's racing through. He'll attack downhill or uphill. Quintana puffing and blowing a little bit, Nero Quintana, but not in any difficulty at the moment. And Chavez is just tucked in there. He's number 182.
Martin's just losing contact
now,
as well. That's a surprise.
That is a big surprise, especially after the work his team has done for him all day today. Also slipping off the back there, Adam Yates in his first tour. Neil Stevens says he's trying to tell him not to work so hard, otherwise he won't finish this tour. He just won't stop working. And he's taking it a bit hard at the moment. Chavez is in the third place here. Might spring the surprise of the day. Contador is here. Froome is here. Anacona is going off the back. And also going off the back here is Wilco Kelderman. And that's a little bit of a surprise. He's not enjoyed these early hot days, but look at this now. We're getting down to a group of about 10 or 11 men. Now we've got the two top riders from Team Sky right at the front. The first one is Mikel Nieve, and the one on our left is Chris Froome, the Tour de France winner in 2013, and who actually came to the top of the wanted list of all the teams when he finished second in the Tour. A few years ago now, he spent the whole tour working with Bradley Wiggins, and in the end he was the better rider, and he finally finished second behind Kobo. Incredible pacemaking by Valverde. He's kept this form now right through the Tour de France. He's just hurting everybody, and his job now is simply to soften them all up in favour of the youngster behind him there from Colombia, who's not showing, not giving us any idea what he's thinking right now. He looks cool.
Well, Valverde at the moment certainly looks like he's working for Quintana. It's Valverde that's really doing the damage.
Padilla has just come off the back of that group. He's about 5 metres behind now, being cheered on by that spectator running alongside. But these two riders, one by one, are unshipping everybody. Froome said he was going to have the time trial of his life up this mountain, and maybe he wasn't joking. His head is up and down, checking on everybody. Chavez is gritting his teeth in third. What a piece of riding this is by Alejandro Valverde.
Fabio Aru as well is looking good there, rider from Astana, looking strong, but Rodriguez is there sitting quietly. But who's going to attack?
I'm not sure anybody can if Valverde keeps riding like this. He got the big classic in Spain, the San Sebastian Classic, earlier this month, just after the Tour de France. He's had the red jersey on for one day after stage 2.
Just 9 riders left.
Gone. 9 left. Contador still there, the man who thought he wouldn't be competitive until the last week of this race because of his horrific injuries from the Tour de France. He's just sitting there. He's just looking like he's never been anywhere because he always rides in and out of the saddle, Alberto.
Maybe gritting his teeth a little bit, but for me the one who's looking the most comfortable is Quintana. Froome, sometimes you can never tell, spinning a gear a lot lower than anybody else.
Just looking over to the left there, Fabio Aru of Astana. He's only 50 seconds off the race lead, but it's off the 2 riders in front. A little move on the left. Now they've got to go for him. That's it, Joaquim Rodríguez. And look at the acceleration. Good reaction. No problem at all. Valverde straight after him. Froome puts his head down and lifts that cadence a little bit more. And behind him, Quintana has answered, Contador has answered, Aru looked a little bit slower trying to answer. Chavez got caught, he's drifting away. And look how that's broken it up.
Yeah, that's certainly split that move with real acceleration, but Valverde, still doing all that work, has managed to follow him.
Well, Rodriguez is either very confident or a little bit daft because, quite frankly, he's gone very early here, but he has broken that breakaway up.
And who's quietly sitting at the back of this group there is Alberto Contador.
But he knows how he's a champion. He's suffering. There's no doubt that Contador is suffering. But here he comes. Straight around Quintana. Has he caught Quintana here? Because Contador moves up. Rodriguez. And now look at the face of on the Valverde on the right. And Chris Froome. Is this the time trial he was referring to at the start today? He said he would time trial his way to the summit. He's shoulder to shoulder with Valverde.
Valverde looks, they've got to be the favourite out of this group actually for this stage win, and if he does, and with Quintana being dropped, it could be Valverde that takes the jersey.
What a horrible climb this is. It's so straight, and Valverde has found more. He's come again on the right. Is Valverde going to finish this off? Because if he does, he's the next man in red. Chris Froome is trying to come for him, and Contador's a star. Contador also getting onto the back wheel of Valverde, but Valverde is the winner on the day. He's back in red. Froome is second. He's up for the fight. Contador, well, there's your answer. Contador is now up for this year's Vuelta. Crosses the line in third place. Rodriguez perhaps did it a little bit early, and he can hardly stay upright. Someone needs to catch him. But also we saw that Quintana also suffering.
Yeah, that's a surprise. I thought he might have been there. He did say he wasn't sure. Maybe this climb was too early in the race for him. But Valverde, with all that work he did, still managed to win the stage, and they just may well change tactics.
Now, while Spanish TV pursued Alberto Contador, Rigoberto Urán and Adam Yates came in a minute down, while Dan Martin, who'd finished just ahead of them, leant on a car to keep himself up. Let's check the result then. Alejandro Valverde, Chris Froome and Alberto Contador were all given the same time, 8 seconds ahead of Joaquim Rodríguez. Nairo Quintana lost 12 seconds, Fabio Aru 18, then came Esteban Chavez and Daniel Navarro. Mikel Nieve rode strongly all day for his team leader. Robert Hesink overtook Wilco Kelderman for Belkin. Warren Barguil of Team Giant Shimano was 11th. Dan Martin, Rigoberto Urán and Adam Yates were 18th, 19th and 20th.
Alejandro ha ganado, pero para mí esto también es una victoria, ¿no? No me podía imaginar estar entre los 10 primeros y mira, casi está luchando por la victoria de etapa. Estoy contento. De momento las rodillas son pinchazos ocasionales los que me da, que no son constantes, no me impiden pedalear. Cruzo los dedos para que siga de esta manera y a ver si también pues mi condición va mejorando poco a poco.
Movistar, the team to beat here in this Vuelta, I think. Rodriguez has shown he's really strong, and Contador, you've seen he's just fine after his injuries.
Now you're satisfied with today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy I didn't really lose any more time today. And yeah, for myself, it's been a long time without intense racing, so I'm really happy with that. And I've got the team to thank. They did a fantastic job positioning me today, and I really I owe being up there to them today.
If Movistar are the team to beat, I suppose the question that follows is which of Movistar's riders is going to turn out to be the man to beat. It's a long race, of course, but Alejandro Valverde was the best today. Luis Mas had a good day too, extending his lead in the King of the Mountains competition. Now the first mountain finish has given the standings a much more business-like look. Valverde now leads the race by 15 seconds from his teammate Nairo Quintana. Alberto Contador is up to third at 18 seconds. Chris Froome is 22 seconds back in fourth. Then it's Esteban Chavez, Joaquim Rodríguez, Robert Hesing and Fabio Aru. He's the last man within a minute of the race lead. Warren Barguil is at 1:02. Rigoberto Urán drops from 4th to 14th at 1:18. And Dan Martin is now a minute 37 back on Alejandro Valverde.
Sigues manteniendo que el líder del equipo es Nairo y que tú a pasártelo bien y ayudarle.
Sí. De hecho se ha visto que he cogido yo la marcha desde abajo a un ritmo bastante fuerte para quedar muy fuerte. Y bueno, y durante los días se me va viendo que estoy ahí, que estoy por delante, que me da un poco el viento. Pero bueno, eso no quita que si me encuentro bien se pueda ganar alguna victoria de etapa. Y Nairo sigue estando ahí y bueno, luego vendrá más montaña y bueno, vamos a ver, pero seguro que estará muy bien.
So, his second red jersey of this race. The first was by default and he had to be called out of the team bus to get it. Today's was one to really celebrate.
Well, plenty to talk about after that stage. We might as well start with the man on the podium there, Alejandro Valverde. What did you make of his performance and perhaps what it does to the dynamic within the Movistar team?
Well, it's definitely been a great start to the Vuelta for Alejandro Valverde. You know, right from the start of this event, he's been aggressive. And for me, I feel like I'm seeing a rider that's finally been freed of that burden of leading a team and being the sole person getting the results. And it's working so well for him. I mean, in the past, we've never seen him setting the pace, riding on the front of the climbs like he has today. He's always been a reactive rider. Whereas today, he dominated. He dictated how the race went on that final climb. And it definitely worked well for him.
And in the end, the only men who could really go after him and stay close to him were Chris Froome and Alberto Contador, the men with the big question marks over their conditioning and their return from injury. So they've each got to be very happy.
I think they're in a great place tonight. You know, they would have been asking a lot of questions at the beginning of today's stage. And I think they probably went in there quite nervous, but, you know, they've both come out of it shining. You know, they rode a very intelligent race, especially Chris Froome. He kept well with himself on the last climb and made sure he didn't overexert himself. But, you know, if you were worried about your form and you finished within the same second as the winner of the stage on the first mountain day, you've got to be very pleased with that.
Whereas you would think Quintana wouldn't need to ride himself into the race and yet suffered.
Yeah, I just wonder whether it's the season gone too long. You know, he won his first race already in January this year, and he's only 24 years old, so this is a sort of voyage of discovery, riding this late into the year and his second Grand Tour of the season. But, you know, this is early days. Today was the first mountain stage of this Vuelta, and we always get special results, so we've got to wait and see over the next coming days in the higher mountains for Quintana.
Big losers, I suppose, since they only had Dan Martin left and they put all their resources at the front to set it up for him today, Garmin.
Definitely, you know, they advertise that this is the strongest GC team that they brought to a stage race for a long time, and within the first week they have nobody in the top 15. They're going to be frightened. There's going to be a team meeting tonight.
And tomorrow, the last stage in Andalusia. Let's take a look at the route map for stage 7. Stage 7 is 169 kilometres, setting out from Alendín, the site of today's first intermediate sprint. And it's what passes for a flat day on the Vuelta, which is to say lumpy. The first climb comes just over 30 kilometres into the stage, and the second of the day's 2 intermediate sprints is actually on the finish line in Alcaudete. So the riders will have the chance for a recce before circling out up the second category Alto Aio and back in for what they'll know by then, if they didn't know already, is an uphill drag to the line. And we're back at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. In fact, we've had a whip round and bought a job lot of 7 o'clock slots, so this should be the last late night show until the final day when the stage itself starts late. And that's it for tonight. It was an interesting race before today's stage, and it looks even more interesting after it. Still 198 riders left in the race, incidentally, and all the ones who can win it are nicely bunched at the top.
Humanity tempers the quiet, and all the time they spend